Hi, this is Mayor Dwayne Warren with another coronavirus update. Today I am back with the city attorney and I want to review all of the executive orders that the governor has entered during this pandemic of coronavirus. We'll try to walk through each one from the beginning all the way to the end and try to give some indication as to what this means for reopening the economy and fully reopening the city. So, Gras Montelis, our city attorney, thank you for joining us today. Just give us a recap. I know that in early to mid March, there was a declaration of emergency by Governor Murphy regarding the coronavirus. Just take us from that period to where we are today.
Thank you for having me appear this morning with you, an opportunity to certainly brief you and our residents regarding the recent events with respect to the governor's executive orders. So on March 9th, Governor Murphy declared a state of emergency for the state of New Jersey as a result of the growing effects of the pandemic. With that, there was a closing of schools, a closing of businesses, only allowing essential businesses to operate.
They ordered us to close municipal buildings, the library, city halls. People were ordered to stay home.
And shelter in place.
Shelter in place.
Yes, sir.
Social distancing. The masks hadn't come in as of yet in the beginning, but eventually they came in as well. Masks, gloves, requiring employees in stores and at merchant places to wear masks and gloves.
Correct. And adhering to strict social distancing guidelines, staying 6 feet apart, even while wearing your mask and gloves. If essential businesses continue to operate, they needed to again comply with those strict guidelines as was set by the governor.
And we suffered through that through most of March, through all of April. Now here we are, almost at a midpoint, and through all of May, and then here we are at the beginning of June. Tell us what has changed. Have any restrictions been eased, and what can we expect for the future?
Sure. So on May 8th, at the beginning of May, Governor Murphy announced the formation of a statewide council of leaders to advise with respect to New Jersey's restart and recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. So since that time, the governor and his advisory committee has been looking at ways to looking at ways to lift certain restrictions that were imposed from the beginning, like you indicated, mid-March up until now. So there has been various executive orders since that advisory committee was formed, lifting certain restrictions. So starting with Executive Order 142, which was signed on May 12th by the governor, that actually started with permitting the resumption of non-essential construction as well as curbside pickup at non-essential retail businesses. As you indicated earlier, only essential retail businesses were allowed to operate during the.
And those included basically pharmacies, food stores,
supermarkets,
and the like.
And the like.
So now there's been an order that says that you can go to the store, but you can't enter the store.
Correct. So all of these stores that did not initially fit under the essential business category, so the non-essential businesses that were not allowed to operate initially, now as of Executive Order 142, which again was signed on May 12th, they can in fact conduct business by curbside pickup, meaning the customers have to go to the store. They're not allowed inside the store.
So they go to the store, they let the merchant know what they want, the merchant will go get it, they pay for it, and they're on their way, never entering the store.
Never entering the store. There's actually, in what we've seen in our municipality, Mayor, is that there is a barricade. The merchants have actually erected a table or a barricade to make sure that no one enters the stores. They still have to adhere to the protocols, the safety measures and protocols instituted by Governor Murphy, which includes the mask, social distancing as they wait for their merchandise, and these are the customers, while the clerks themselves continue to wear masks and gloves as they retrieve the items and hand it to the purchasers.
That's Executive Order 142.
Correct.
Easing restrictions for retail stores to operate.
Retail stores to operate, as well as, again, the resumption of non-essential construction.
What's the next one?
The next one was Executive Order 143, which was signed 2 days later on May 14th. And that dealt with the beaches, boardwalks, and lakes. So a few days before the Memorial Day weekend, Governor Murphy again signed Executive Order 103, allowing beaches, boardwalks, lakes, and lake shores to remain open with strict, again, social distancing measures to remain in place. Again, that was signed on May 22nd.
That's Executive Order 143.
Correct. Correct.
What do we have next?
So, following that was Executive Order 145, which was signed on May 15th, and that dealt with surgeries, elective surgeries, and invasive procedures.
Because there had been a measure signed by the governor that said no elective surgeries could be performed because they didn't know about the spread of this disease.
Number one, they didn't know about the spread of the disease. Number two, they also wanted to preserve the essential equipment that was necessary in order to aid our first responders with respect to their ability to assist with coronavirus victims.
But that had no effect on needed surgeries, on life-saving procedures, or any of that. This is all elective surgeries. That you can have it or not have it if you want to.
That's correct, Mayor, and that actually was Executive Order 109. That was so. Executive Order 145 again basically nullified 109 in terms of the elective procedures, surgical procedures, and invasive procedures.
Now you said 142, 143, and then you skipped to 145. Was there a 144?
There was a 144, but it really didn't deal with or highlight any.
That's one of those administrative orders.
Correct.
So after 145, where does that put us?
So on a day later, on May 16th, the governor did sign another executive order allowing charter fishing services and for hire vessel activities to continue. Again, with an understanding that strict social distancing guidelines and measures continue to be followed.
And this dealt with our fisheries and other things off the shore.
Exactly. As everybody knows, New Jersey has a very big shore community, and the governor took that into consideration clearly in signing Executive Order 145, allowing those activities to resume.
Once again, that's an economic issue.
Correct.
Those were jobs, and the jobs that even fall off from that and supply to the stores and
Correct.
so forth.
Correct. Correct. A couple of days later, on May 18th, Mayor, 147, Executive Order 147 was signed. And that dealt with certain outdoor activities to resume. So the governor, in signing that order, allowed outdoor activities at recreational businesses, including archery ranges, batting cages, golf driving ranges, horseback riding, and the like, tennis clubs, as well as community gardens, to open with required social distancing measures to remain in place. It's important to highlight that all of these restrictions that are being lifted, they're not being lifted in its entirety in terms of without taking into consideration certain safety measures that need to remain in place, as this pandemic has not necessarily left us completely. But again, the flattening of the curve, as the governor has alluded to, has allowed him and his administration to take measures to slowly get the economy back up and running, but at the same time understanding the need to remain safe.
Understood.
Following that, Mayor, there was an administrative order that was signed by Governor Murphy in collaboration with the Superintendent of the State Police, and that's Colonel Patrick Callahan. So that administrative order actually authorized in-person sales to resume at car dealerships, motorcycle dealerships, boat dealerships, bike shops, by appointment only, and again, while maintaining social distancing measures. Prior to that administrative order, the sales at these shops were suspended, but the maintenance parts of these dealerships were allowed to.
That was part of the essential business.
That was part of the essential business category that fell under that essential business definition, and they were allowed to maintain their operation with, again, strict cleansing and disinfecting measures to remain in place. But what the administrative order did is obviously now it opened up the sales portion of those businesses, allowing these, again, an economic consideration, allowing these businesses to open up and operate, again, under strict protective measures. The next executive order, Mayor, that takes us to Executive Order 148. So Executive Order 148, and that was actually an important executive order because that dealt with outdoor gatherings for individuals. So what it did is that it increased the number of outdoor gatherings in terms of the number of people allowing to gather in one place at one time. It took it from 10 to 25.
So there was a restriction that first there was no outdoor gathering at all, stay home, shelter in place, and then the governor modified it somewhat to allow 10 persons or less to gather.
Correct.
And so now, what does 148 do?
So now 148 increases that number from 10 to 25.
And
So
that's just
this-
in public places, or is
So that's for outdoor gatherings.
outdoor?
Correct. So again, it increases the limit on outdoor gatherings from 10 to 25 people and allowing recreational campgrounds to reopen with, again, social distancing measures in place. So the constant theme throughout all of these new, throughout
your
all of these
distance.
recent executive orders, exactly. Keep your distance.
Wear your mask.
Wear your mask. Wear your gloves. Understand.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Stay home if you can.
If you can, stay home. If you can't, understand what measures you need to take to remain safe.
Understood.
So Executive Order 148 was then further amended to include the professional sports teams, which, as you know, we have a few professional sports teams that play in the state of New Jersey. So Executive Order 148 was expanded to note that the professional sports teams that train in New Jersey are allowed to practice and engage in games or matches if their leagues resume competition. So there's been talk, as a matter of fact, it's not even been talk, there was actually a vote either yesterday or the day before with the NBA Board of Governors. They authorized that the league would start back up. I believe it's July 31. So now with the Executive Order 148, it allows our New Jersey, well, we no longer have
Our regional teams will start to be back in place,
correct.
and they can go to practice. The Jets, who practice in Florham Park, can go back into practice
correct.
from the NFL.
Correct, right. So that, again, was an expansion of Executive Order 148. 149, very, very important with respect to our residents who have child care needs. So 149, that was signed on May 30th, and Governor Murphy, by signing that executive order, allowed the resumption of child care services, youth day camps, and organized sports.
Because there had been an order that closed the daycare centers, much to the angst of parents who still had to work because they were essential workers, but yet they had no daycare services, and they really had to scramble. So this is needed relief to a lot of families.
Absolutely, Mayor. And the executive order that you referenced was Executive Order 110. So that executive order did like you said, did place certain restrictions and limitations on an emergency basis with respect to child care. So what Executive Order 149 does is that it rescinds the emergency child care program that was instituted under Executive Order 110, and it permits the child care centers to resume normal operations on or after June 15th. That's coming up right around the corner.
So 149 is not fully in effect yet. It takes effect on June 15th, and at that point, daycare centers can be open. Do we know whether or not there are any health department restrictions that'll be imposed?
What it does is that they can open subject to their compliance with COVID-19 specific health and safety standards.
So a new set of standards will be imposed to make sure that they're compliant and that our children are safe. And that will happen on June 15th.
That'll happen on June 15th.
Are these standards, have they been published yet? Are they available to the public at this point?
At this point, they're not. I don't believe they're available to the public, Mayor. Once they are available to the public, we will certainly make that available to the many residents here who have child care concerns.
Excellent.
And it's important to note that youth day camps, they're also being allowed to reopen under this order, but that's not going to take place until on or after July 6th.
So on or after July 6th, there will be youth day camps that will be able to be opened. Are there any new restrictions that will be imposed on the youth day camps that will happen on July 6th?
So the same restrictions or the same requirements that the child care centers will have to comply with, or the same COVID-19 specific health and safety standards that the youth day camps will have to adhere to in order to operate on or after July 6th.
Well, one of the things I want to ask you to do is to really dig deep and do the research to determine whether or not these restrictions have been imposed yet, if they've been published, and if they're available. I'd like you to meet with the health department to make sure that we get them published out on our website and start to educate our local centers as to what those new restrictions will be so that we can be up and running and not cause any more angst to parents who need to go to work.
Will do, will do. And finally, Mayor, Executive Order 150 was just recently signed on June 3rd. And what that does, Mayor, is that it permits outdoor dining starting Monday, June 15th. And Governor Murphy, in signing that order, also issued an executive directive from the Department of Health that lays out health and safety standards that food or beverage establishments are required to follow if they are going to be allowed to open for outdoor dining services as of June 15th.
So the standards for outdoor dining have been published. They're available. Once again, I'd ask that you meet with our health official, and I'll convene a roundtable with our eateries to make sure they know what the standards are, and make sure they comply also with the local guidelines as to outdoor eating, curb space, table space, and so forth.
Understood. Will do. Also, what 150 also highlights is that the beauty salons and hair and barbershops will also be allowed to open. That is as of June 22nd.
So I can cut my afro.
You and I both, Mayor.
So as of June 22nd, barbershops, hair salons, will that include nail salons as
That
well?
will include nail salons as well.
They'll be fully opened.
As of June 22nd.
Are they-
Again, adhering to the standards as has been established by the state government. These establishments will have to adhere to the COVID-19 specific health and safety standards if they are going to open as of June 22nd.
So you've gotten your team together. You've already directed them to put a list of standards together. You're going to review that and put that in a memo that'll go out to the directors.
I'll put that in a memo form that will go out to each director. Following the submission or following the dissemination of that memo to the directors, I will meet with each director to make sure that those safety measures and standards are actually understood, because the public is going to expect us to understand and to explain those safety measures. What I'd then like to do is to meet with the health department and the health official in crafting a letter that's going to go out to these business owners as to what they need to do before they can reopen and as they continue to operate their businesses. I think that's important for us to highlight
Absolutely.
the measures that need to be taken place in writing so that there is no confusion or no misunderstanding as to what takes place or what needs to take place, because again, the safety of our residents and anyone that comes into Orange is our primary importance.
And I know you're setting up an email address or phone number for businesses to contact in case they need interpretation or some explanation of the new standards that will be put in place.
That's correct, Mayor. So I think it's important, rather than to just have the just ordinary law department email available for just any or general legal questions. I think it's important for us to set up a special email or a special hotline where individuals can actually call in specifically with questions concerning the COVID-19 health and safety standards, or any other questions they may have with respect to the businesses that are now being allowed to operate, or any concerns that may come up. I think it's important for them to have a direct mode of communication to the law department for answers to those specific questions.
I just want to jump back to there's some other emergency orders that dealt with economic issues. I just want to get your status on those. There was one that indicated that evictions would be stayed for a period of time. What's the status of that executive order?
So that executive order remains in place. There was a deadline imposed as to when that would be rescinded, or when these landlords would be able to go back and revisit any issues regarding evictions and the like. That deadline has not yet passed, so that order remains in place in terms of protecting.
And what's the deadline for that now?
I believe it's June 30th, but I'd have to, again, double check the order, but I believe it's June 30th.
Okay. And so we'll have the number, that executive order number, and the title of that executive order on the screen. You'll be able to look at it and do further follow-up, because there'll be a government website attached to it that you'll be able to go to get more information. There was also There was some talk about a rental assistance executive order that was being implemented the um, by the Department of Community Affairs. Is there any progress with such rental assistance?
I know that that there was talk of that, and actually it was recently discussed by the state government, but there's been at least no information disseminated thus far that I could actually give to the public at this time.
All right, if you can follow up with that, I think Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver was working on a package of relief for rental assistance. So let's just find out what the status of that is.
Sure.
At least we'd be able to provide a website where we got the information that they're considering it, and if residents want to look at it, they can certainly go to that website. There was also, I don't know if on the state level we dealt with an executive order, but I know that on the federal level there was a package of legislation dealing with unemployment and with stimulus pay. So unemployment first. Where are we with the unemployment?
There's been a lot of delay, I would say, in getting the individuals.
And these are applications to the State Department of Labor for
Correct.
unemployment.
Correct. And there've been a delay there's been a reported delay in a lot of these applicants being able to actually get any information or to actually start getting payments. That recently has been lifted. The applicants have been starting to get their unemployment payments and been able to actually communicate with the New Jersey Department of Labor. With respect to the stimulus packages, again, as you indicated, that was in fact a federal measure, which the first wave of the stimulus checks did in fact go out to individuals who met the criteria from a income tax and income level standard. There's been a second stimulus package that has begun to make its way out to residents as well.
And for those of us who have college students, I know that a number of colleges are now either going online, they're fully opening, or they're going to open in January. Do you know what's happening with the area colleges?
There's been a lot of colleges who have already committed to having online courses for the fall. I know one of the area colleges is Kane University here in Elizabeth/Union, New Jersey, Union County, who that institution has already instituted a fall online program for its students. The other area colleges such as Seton Hall, Bloomfield College, etc., they're still in the process of trying to determine exactly which way to go with respect to, again, maintaining safety protocols for the students.
For those schools, at least the ones, Kane has a lot of our residents there, William Patterson, Seton Hall University, Rutgers, Newark certainly has a good number of our residents, Essex County College, Berkeley. If you could at least get those area colleges at least a phone number or a website that we can put up on the screen so that students, many of whom are graduating this year, maybe going to those schools, can get in touch and find out what the status is, or if they want to apply for another semester, at least they'll have that information.
Will do, Mayor.
And then finally, is there any news on the school front and whether or not we're going to be opening our local schools in September?
There hasn't been a definitive decision yet as to how they're going to operate and open up the schools as of September. There still is some discussions that is taking place in terms of whether or not they're going to stagger students or, again, what they're going to do. They do anticipate reopening the schools in September. They're just not sure exactly how they're going to do it with respect to maintaining the safety of the children.
Okay, please keep us posted on that.
Will do.
As well. And I know you're working with our Department of Community Affairs to work out our summer program requirements. Please, as that goes, please let us know what those restrictions are so we can let parents know as soon as possible. But we'll be getting community service on as well to talk about what we're going to do for the summer for our children. Your legal help desk that you set up to answer residents' questions about the economic issues that we faced during the pandemic was successful. Many people called in with legal issues. They were able to speak to a licensed attorney here in the state of New Jersey. We hope that you would continue to make sure that you reach out, be informed. if you're having issues with your landlord or your mortgage company, or any of those kinds of economic issues, you can certainly call the help desk, which is on your screen. And lastly, I do want to, we talked about evictions, but we didn't talk about foreclosures. Where are we with homeowners who may have been facing foreclosure due to the pandemic? Was there a stay put there as well?
There was definitely a stay put there as well to assist the individuals who are facing foreclosures as well as those who are facing evictions. So that there was again a deadline put in place. That deadline, I believe, also coincided with the deadline that was imposed for the eviction procedure.
If they need to reach you or the law department, how do they do it?
So they're going to dial 973-266-4000, and then they're going to follow the prompts for the law department, or they can send me an email directly. My email address is gmontilus@orangenj.gov. That's GMONTILUS@orangenj.gov.
Grass, you've been a lawyer for how long?
Over 25 years.
25 years. You went to law school where?
The Villanova University School of Law.
And where'd you go to undergrad?
Seton Hall University Pirates, as well as Seton Hall Prep. So I've been a pirate I was a pirate for a long time.
You have a son?
I do. I have a son who just turned 20.
Nice. I feel your pain.
There's a lot of pain, Mayor.
That's right. And you have your own practice where you practice in civil and criminal law.
I do have my own practice, and my main office is in South Orange, New Jersey. There I do practice criminal law, criminal defense, as well as immigration law.
And you do what during this pandemic that made you come down and relax?
I haven't. Where there's always an issue, Mayor, obviously, as you know, and you've done a great job in certainly leading our community. We've been answering questions, we've been fielding calls, having these meetings and advisory meetings and calls. It's always something going on, Mayor. It's always something going on.
Try to relax at least one day. There you have it from the director of our law department, keeping track of all of the issues that have come down regarding the pandemic. There is a lot to digest here, but we need to make sure that we're up on the law, and as it progresses, we need to progress with it. If you have any questions, please reach out to those numbers. You can always call me at 862-373-0025, and I'll try to answer your questions or get you the answers as soon as possible. Keep your distance. Wear your mask. Wear your gloves. Try to stay home as much as possible. But most of all, please observe all the guidelines that have been imposed when you're out and doing whatever activities you're doing, shopping, walking in the parks, wherever you may be. Please continue to monitor the guidelines. I will continue to monitor the numbers. We're about 900 plus cases of coronavirus. We're a little bit under 70 causes of death. But the key thing is that we've had, during our testing period, we've had over 320 negative tests come back, and we've had hundreds of recoveries from the coronavirus. I've indicated the other day there was a woman who was 100 years old in Orange that recovered from the coronavirus. So certainly we want her to continue to be blessed, but others as well. Follow the protocols, stay well, stay away from others if you have the signs, and self-quarantine so that you can get better and join in our community to help make it stronger. Please do all you can to make sure that you're safe. Stay tuned as we give you further updates on how we roll out the economy and activities for the youth this summer. Once again, you can contact me, 862-373-0025. I am Mayor Warren. This is our Director of Law, Gras Montilus. Thank you for listening, and together we can beat the coronavirus.